Last September, President Barack Obama, under increasing pressure to demonstrate that the United States is joining European nations in the effort to resettle Syrian refugees, told his administration to take in 10,000 displaced Syrians in the next year. Following the Paris terror attacks on November 13, opposition to resettle refugees in the United States rose. A Syrian passport was found near one of the Paris terror attackers. This Syrian passport increased the fears that Islamic State group terrorists could infiltrate the United States through refugee routes and resettlement programs. After these Paris terrorist attacks, many governors of the United States said that they would not allow the resettlement of Syrians in their states. Now the debate is, should the United States receive Syrians that are fleeing the terrors of their country, or should the government put their citizens' security first? An NBC News SurveyMonkey poll found that 56% of Americans disapprove of the resettlement of Syrians in the U.S., while the other 41% of Americans approve of the resettlement. Now, those who are on both sides have different reasonings for why. Those who approve say that the Paris terrorist attackers were not even Syrians. Paris officials found that the 8 Paris terrorist attackers were all European citizens and all held European passports. They also argue that refugees do not become terrorists, because according to the Bureau of Population, Refugees and Migration, around 1,000 of the 785,000 refugees have been arrested or removed because of terrorist concerns. And Syrians are already the most heavily vetted group of people coming into the U.S. Those that argue for and favor of resettling Syrians in the U.S. also say that refusing them would not make anyone safer. A study found that keeping refugees in camps near a conflict zone increases terrorism in those areas, but resettling them outside of those areas does not. They also remind us of the lessons that we have learned, such as when the U.S. took in refugees during the Cold War, it gained foreign policy assets, spies, allies, and spokesmen to argue against the enemy's propaganda. But when the U.S. turned away Jews during World War II, between 5 and 6 million Jews were killed during the Holocaust. Now, on to those who are against the resettlement of Syrians. On November 17, 2015, the American Security Against Foreign Enemies Safe Act, House Resolutions H.R. 4038 was introduced. This bill would ultimately enhance the screening process for people trying to enter the U.S. as refugees. Now, because the main reason those who are against resettling Syrians in the U.S. is because of security reasons. Majority staff of the House Homeland Security Committee and the Homeland Security Secretary Jen Johansson have both made statements saying that it is not a good idea to resettle the Syrians in the U.S. because we do not have the resources to check their backgrounds completely, or there's not even a Syrian database that we can check through. And that those who are against allowing Syrians to be resettled in the U.S. also say that we already have limited resources and we have no obligation. Now the question is, can governors refuse the entrance of refugees into their state? The answer is no, because the federal government has sole power over immigration decisions and the refugee system is included in that. Fong Yu Tang versus United States, Hein versus David Witts, and Arizona versus United States have already brought this issue forth And because of these cases, it has been made clear that the refugee policy is the dominion of the federal government, and that is not a new interpretation of federalism. Conclusion. Although the refugee screening process is being updated and improved, the debate of Syrian refugee resettlement will continue since the U.S. does not have good data from Syria.